Hello, my name is Leslie Hughes and I'm the president of Boquete Health and Hospice. We're here today speaking with Kim Doherty, who has been one of the most avid proponents for the Being Prepared program. She used it with the death of her husband last year, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what it meant and how she got involved with it and why it's been useful to her. For those of you who are interested in receiving a copy of the Being Prepared booklet, you can get one at mailboxes, etc. for a cost of $10, or at the Tuesday Market for a cost of $10, or you can make an online donation to boquetehealth.org under the donations page, and for a donation of at least $5, we will then email you a copy of the Being Prepared guide. Kim, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate the opportunity.
How long have you been a resident of Boquete?
My husband, Bud, and I moved here on December 6, 2016. He had taken early retirement, and so I've almost been here 5 years now.
Do you like it here?
I love Boquete. I love the people. I love the town. I love the atmosphere. I love everything about it.
Was thinking about health care important in your decision to move to Boquete?
We were looking for someplace fun to retire, to be truthful. We had been to the Bahamas, to the Dominican Republic. We looked at Belize, and we liked the beach and just wanted to do something fun. We began traveling early in our married life. We were married for 30 years, and one of the first trips he took me on was Paris, and from then on we just traveled, and that was one of the things we loved to do together. So we were constantly attending seminars and reading books and looking for the perfect place to retire, because we knew economically that the United States was not going to be feasible for our particular situation, and Boquete is perfect for that.
So healthcare was sort of
It was a big factor.
Okay.
Bud had mitral valve repair almost 12 years ago. I had cancer. So healthcare, the premiums for insurance were getting outrageous. And we had gotten to the point with his age that in order for us to continue to get healthcare, it was going to be awfully expensive, and for me as well. So we actually dropped our health insurance and life insurance when we moved here, because it's so, you can go to the doctor for $20, and we've both been, he broke his leg a couple of years after we were here, and that was very inexpensive, which would have been, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the States, and I broke my arm this past January. So we're very familiar with the health care in the Boquete DeVite area.
What was it that interested you about the Being Prepared program?
I had been a legal secretary at a point in the States, dealing with the states, assisting attorneys with estate work, court work, dealing with the states. And I knew the importance of having a will. Although American wills are not recognized in Panama, we developed a foundation that would cover me in the event of his death, in which it did. And we had a corporation and had health care directives that I basically took a health care directive that I had done in the States, because it would not be recognized here, had it translated into Spanish, and then took it to my attorney, and he had it authenticated or whatever they do here. It was not an issue with us that my husband would go to the hospital. He was diagnosed with a large mass, inoperable mass in his chest that spread to his esophagus, his neck, his liver, his kidney. There was not going to be recovery from it. And he did not want to go to the hospital, and he did not want to leave me with nothing. And he said during COVID, which we were at the height of COVID, that he just would not go to the hospital. So I knew the importance of being prepared, that there would be a time that I would need to know who to call in the event of his death. I needed to know who to contact, how long it was going to take, what documents I would need, who not to call in the event of its death, how much it was going to cost me, would I need money available. And so I had seen the Being Prepared manual on Facebook and had gone down to Mailbox Etc. and purchased one for $10. I brought it home, truthfully, and put it on the top of my refrigerator. In early 2020, when we were at the height of COVID, he was increasingly growing weaker. He went 53 days without eating. every day I went to bed. Some nights I, slept with one eye half open, knowing that he's going to die any moment. Now that was March. He didn't die until October. But I knew I had to do something, that I just could not wait until the day he died and then come up with a passport or come up with a new schedule or where's my will, where's my marriage license, what am I going to need? So on a March night after he'd gone to bed, I went down and got it off of the refrigerator and I looked through it, got the valuable information, and decided that I would do a court notebook like I had done for being a legal secretary. And I did the fighters in it, personal information, medical information, anything I thought I might need on that very last day that he was living, that I would need to give to somebody. And I did that, filled it out, put it back on top of the refrigerator. And when he died on October 2nd, the first thing I did, of course, was call our doctor. And the second thing I did was pull that down and showed it to my neighbor. And she's like, "This is phenomenal. I didn't know you had done this." And then when the doctor came, I just handed it to her and she looked at it. If you think I'm a strong advocate for it, she was like, "I can't believe, I don't have to ask you any questions." I think the only question I did not have was they needed to know the exact, how addresses are in Panama. They wanted the exact address that was on my deed. And we did that, which ended up being a little confusing because it sent them somewhere else when they called the ambulance. But it was invaluable. I knew that I needed it. I knew that I needed to be prepared. And as I told you earlier when we were talking, this manual is so important to me because it made me realize that there were people out there who cared about me, even though they couldn't be with me during the height of COVID. You gave me oxygen concentrators to use. I got spiritual help. I got the offer of food, which I didn't need because I had such terrific neighbors that provided me with that. But it was there. It was offered to me. But it made me realize that there were a group of people out there who thought about me, even though they didn't know me, and knew that they needed to do something for some poor woman from Mississippi that would need it at the most devastating time of her life. And it works so well for me. I tell everybody, get this notebook, work with it however it works for you. The notebook thing may not work for everybody. It just worked well for me. And I'm so appreciative for it. And I try to tell everybody how much it meant to me. The best $10 I ever spent in my life.
Well, part of the history, which you may not know about the Being Prepared program, was it started by one of our initial members. And she spent time and she put it together. It was not nearly as detailed as what we've done now, but it was given out to people, and she did presentations a couple times a year for 10 years. And we were all very, very grateful to what she did. Then it was discussed, let's update it. Let's correct the phone numbers. Let's go visit the funeral homes. Let's go through a step-by-step case of what do you need to do when. And one of our team members on the Being Prepared team, her father was actually dying at the time. And so she actually went through and did step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, which made it easier to put the booklet together. So we're very glad it was helpful to you.
Oh, it was.
Was it hard to fill out the booklet?
Oh, not at all. It asks you questions that you should know. Your husband's name, his social security number. Those things that you forget when you're having trauma. Even now I have to look up what my phone number is, but it was all right there. Every question that she needed for that death certificate or the medical report was there. And the booklet allowed me to know who to call, what funeral home to call, what worked best for me, things to do. He'd been ill, so that it wasn't necessary to call police then. In the States, it's because we're American citizens, it's so easy, and we take so many things for granted. Like, my sister's a coroner, so I know all about the death process and reporting, and when someone dies, they automatically order 10, 20 death certificates for you. And it's different here, living in a different country. But this made it so concise and so easy that I did not feel worried. And I'm a big worrier. I'm trying to work on that, but I'm a big worrier and try to think of every little detail that could happen. And I didn't have to do that because it was in the booklet. So easy and so informative.
And you've given all this information to your your children in the States, so
Yes.
they know what to do in case something happens to
That's
you.
right, that's right. That's very, very important. If I was to die today and they did not have a contact, or even having the buddy system where you let your neighbor know, this is my son's phone number. This is who to contact in case of an emergency. This is what to do if you see my lights on for too many hours a day, that you know to come check on me and whatever. Those little safeguards that you need to do, especially if you're a single woman living in a foreign country, because things are so, so different.
Yes, and being prepared it's a tough thing to fill out because you have to face both you and your spouses or your loved ones' mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, it's rather a daunting prospect.
It is.
What am I going to do if my significant other is no longer alive?
Right.
And to go through that, to go through creating advance directives, to go through and pull up, and this is what took me a long time to do, was all of the financial information, all the credit cards, all of the bank accounts, so that if something did happen, my buddy could take care of it and then pass it over to my daughter, who would then finish taking care of all of the nitty-gritty details that have to be handled.
Not long ago I met with my attorney because we've done a foundation. Not a money-making foundation, but basically in Panama you can develop a foundation that assures you that when you die, my husband, he's gone, then I will get the property, and then if I die, it's like a will, but not. So I met with him not long ago because I was going through a little traumatic period saying, oh, do I really need this or whatever, and he looked at me and he said, Bud thought about you long before he died, and he knew that there would come a time that you would have trauma in your life and you wouldn't understand things. And so he developed this with me for you so that you don't have these worries. So don't worry. And he basically said, everything's great in Panama. I don't know how it is in the U.S., but with you, everything's great in Panama and you have no worries. So with what you did and having an attorney, which is so, so important, having an accountant, having a banker you trust, a doctor you trust, those are important things in Panama that people need to realize. Those are the people you need to trust and the people you have to fall back on.
And that's actually the first thing you should do in being prepared, is get a doctor in town.
Exactly.
You need to have someone to call to say, I've got a health issue, because here doctors make house calls.
Isn't it wonderful? And they give you their cell number. Oh, and I just, I communicate still with my doctor, who I just love dearly. She's my friend too, but any time of the day or night, I could, text her. That doesn't happen in the U.S. They don't give you your cell phone, but that's just one of the wonderful things about being here, is that you have that intimacy. And that's not just in the small town of Boquete. That's with surgeons in David, because when I broke my arm, I just, text a surgeon and we talk back and forth and things like that. It's just that intimate medical assistant that you do not get in the U.S.
There's definitely a need, being down here as expats, that we have, but we've got the advantage of, most of us don't have family down here.
That's right.
So we develop friendships, we develop support systems, so that we've got our buddies that we can call on at the drop of a hat.
That's
If
right.
someone needs help at 2 in the morning, you've got someone you can call.
Exactly. Your friends become your family. I'm very fortunate to live in a community where they were there every day for me. They fed me every day. They checked on me every day. They spent the night with me the night my husband died. And when I broke my arm, it was the same thing. They were there for me. It's important. You may think you can move here and not be involved in the community, which I've not been really, really involved, but I've developed a core of friendships. And that's very important when you're away from your family, and that you develop that core friendships, because those will be the people that help you when you're in time of need.
So being prepared was something that you felt was extremely useful. I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize for that.
No.
But it saved you from having to deal with the nitty-gritty details and let you concentrate on your emotions.
Exactly.
And that's something that sometimes people forget.
That's right.
Emotions are a big factor when someone dies.
I was having to be Other than the times that I would call the doctor and say, I think I need a house call, I was everything, you know. I was his nurse, I was his cook when he would eat, and I cared for him. You know, when it says in sickness and in health, that's exactly, you know, what it was. And he would have done likewise for me. But you're so busy doing those things that these financial things, these medical things, these little details are things that do not need to get in your way of loving that person, taking care of that person, and cherishing those last days. We knew, I knew, he knew, that he would not make it to the end of the year. So every day was a gift. They weren't always pretty gifts, but they were gifts. And that's where I had to center my attention on him. So now I have no regrets in regard to him, and I can attribute that to being prepared.
So, tough question. Have you completed a being prepared for you?
I have done that, and I have it in a notebook, and my friends know how to contact my family, and everything's good.
Good.
Everything's good. I appreciate it so, so much. I speak with people about this all the time, and people through the grapevine, they will learn that you've lost somebody. When I lost my son 17 years ago, people know about those things, and I still get calls from mothers saying, how do you deal with this? And people just know. So my friends know what to do in the case of an emergency. My son knows what to do. And I'm just confident in knowing that I can personally live here happily ever after, even though I'm having to do it alone.
Good. So you have been prepared.
I've been prepared, and I urge everyone else to as well. The way I would sum up having a being prepared guy is it's a lifesaver. At a time that is the most crucial for you and caring for that person that means the most to you, in my case, the person I lived with for 30 years, who was my soulmate, the love of my life, it took the worry out of my mind and out of my heart so that I could fill my mind and my heart with my most important person. And so it's a lifesaver, and it's the best $10 I've ever spent in my whole life. And I thank you for it. I'm so appreciative to your group and what you meant to me, and for thinking of me when you did not even know who I was.
We're glad we could help Kim. We have been speaking with Kim Doherty, who has been gracious enough to tell us about her being prepared adventures and what she's learned and how it has helped her. And again, if you'd like to get a copy of the Being Prepared Manual, you can get one at mailboxes, etc., or the Tuesday Market, or you can get one online by sending a donation. Use boquetehealth.org, go to the donations page, make a donation. When we receive notification of your donation, we will email a copy of the guide back to you. But do yourself a favor, don't just let it sit on the fridge. Fill it out, get a buddy, and make sure that everyone in town is being prepared.